Welcome back to an episode of Absolutely Fabulous. It's episode 56. Today we're talking about where Gillian's been in the state, and that includes the MLA and the SA Livestock updates. We're going to be talking about siblings fighting over succession and multi-million-dollar properties. We're going to be talking about electoral policies that have been set in South Australia, how other states in Australia should be following them as well. Victoria, we are looking at you. We talk about one of Australia's youngest rodeo riders. She is a female rider who is making waves not only in Australia, but is about to head up to the US arenas and much, much more. So let's jump straight into this episode.
Hi, welcome to Absolutely Fabulous. My name is Gillian Fennell, also known as Station Mum 101. I love everything about agriculture, especially the people and especially communicating about what makes Australian ag so special.
And I'm Katja Williams, a beef, cattle and cropping farmer, and I love all things ag, and I'm also known as the ultimate farm wife. Together, we are Absolutely Fabulous, and we are talking all things agriculture beyond the headlines.
And we can't wait to give our opinion to you, and we hope you enjoy it.
So let's get into today's episode. So let's start with some chit chat. Gillian, exciting week for you. You've had some, what do they call it, AGMs. You've got some exciting news to share with us and some industry updates.
Yeah, so I've been away all week last week in Adelaide and around the mid-north with mum and dad at the farm and stuff. Was re-elected chair of Livestock SA. Thank you very much for putting your faith in me for the future. I will tell you an outrageous story about how I actually got to the AGM. So we had Merv Hughes as our guest speaker, and we got this new comms officer at Livestock SA, and she's pretty cool. So she convinced Merv to come and have a photo shoot at the showgrounds, which is where our office is, with a bunch of kids and farm animals. So I'd been up at Roseworthy, which was the ag college, because they were having their celebration, been up there for about an hour or two, standing out in the middle of a flat, listening to people talk, jumped in the car, drove back down to Adelaide, picked up Merv, took him to the showgrounds, cuddled baby goats, all these sorts of things, left him, just abandoned him there at the showgrounds with the school kids and our comms manager, drove like a mad thing, got kicked out at the entertainment centre by Mark so he could go and get changed. I'm wiping myself down with wet wipes because I'm covered in goat hair and everything, slapping the makeup on, putting on the frock and the pantyhose and everything like this in like record time. No mirror to do the makeup, was trying to do it in my phone, was just like, got there at the end, got into the room, did the AGM. The light was so incredibly bright. I couldn't see my speech. I couldn't see anybody in the crowd. And we're trying to like move motions and stuff. And I'm like, literally, I cannot see you because I am so blinded by this light here. Everyone thought I was crying because like the light was just in my eyes so much. It was just, but after that, we had our industry dinner and it was magnificent. I'm so proud of everyone who helped to put that together. It was amazing. Everyone worked so hard. It was great. And the food was great. So yeah, I've been away doing lots of different stuff, and we had the MLA updates, which was a very interesting day there. That includes the Meat and Livestock Australia AGM. Nothing really changes at those sorts of AGMs. It's all very, very benign. There was a little bit of ructions from the floor. Cattle Australia tried to get a motion up. If you're not familiar with the MLA AGM constitution, you have to get 75% majority to make any changes. I didn't think they'd get as close as they did, but Cattle Australia proposed a amendment to the constitution that would allow more than the vacancies to be nominated for vacant roles on the MLA board. And they got it, I think it was about 48% or something, which is, they gave it a fair nudge. So when you think about the sheer number of votes that are involved with MLA, that was pretty incredible advocacy effort there from Cattle Australia. But other than that, it was a really good event. And then even that sort of thing, it wasn't nasty or anything like that. It was all very professional, very well done. It was just very interesting because those sorts of things come up occasionally. Some people handle it better than others. It was handled very well. And, yeah, it was a great couple of days. with Meat and Livestock Australia and Livestock SA down in Adelaide. So what have you been up to, Katja? Anything exciting?
Well, before we jump into what I've been up to, for those who don't quite understand what MLA or SA Livestock do, or what Cattle Country do, especially for our listeners who are not agriculturally based, or who are new to the industry, can you just give us a little bit more of an idea about why this is important and why you're part of those boards?
Okay. So my board, which is Livestock SA, so I represent all the sheep, cattle and goat producers in South Australia. We are what is known as an SFO, so a state farming organisation. It's a bit different in South Australia because we've got different commodity groups. In New South Wales, you've got New South Wales farmers. Western Australia, you've got Western Australian farmers. Victoria, you've got Victorian Farmers Federation. Tasmania, you've got Tasmanian Graziers and Pastoralists Association, something like that. Queensland, you've got Ag Force and Queensland Farmers Federation. NT, you've got NT Farmers and Northern Territory Cattlemen's Association. So we are what we call state farming organisations. We represent the actual producers. The next level up from us is what we call peak industry bodies. And depending on what commodity group you're in, you might have a few different ones. So we've got sheep producers, wool producers, Cattle Australia, grain growers. There's a few different peak industry bodies. They are then all members of NFF, National Farmers Federation. So they are our national representative body. Meat and Livestock Australia is what we call an RDC, so a Research and Development Corporation. So every time someone sells a sheep or a bullock or a cow or whatever you want to describe it, or a goat pay a very small amount. Every time you sell some livestock, you pay a levy to Meat and Livestock Australia. That is matched dollar for dollar from the federal government to invest in research, development, extension, and adoption. So when you see people doing like research projects and those sorts of things, that is what MLA does. And for wool, it's AWI, Australian Wool Innovation. Grains, it's GRDC, Grains Research and Development Corporation. So there's all these different RDCs. Wine grapes have got them, fish have got them, everyone's got them. They're all governed by legislation. So they don't represent us. That's not what they do. They don't do advocacy. They don't do representation. They do investment in research and development and market access and those sorts of things. So yeah, that is what MLA is.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for all of that. So I actually even wrote some notes. Let me go have a look. By the time this episode is out, tickets will be live for the Harvest Her Power conference, and that is the early bird ticket price. So highly recommend getting in early, getting your early bird ticket price. There are also only limited tickets, as they were last year. And what that means is if we sell out on early bird, we sell out on early bird. So if you have been listening along to season 10 of The Ultimate Farm Wife and you are learning all about what happened at the conference this year, or you've been listening to us talk about it here on the podcast over the last 6 or so months, then now's your chance to jump on and grab those tickets.
Because we're getting a guest at the conference, aren't we, that I'm sort of glad I'm not going to the conference because I would owe her an apology. We tried really hard when we were covering the Farmer Wants a Wife, but Clarette from Farmer Wants a Wife is going to be one of the guest speakers at the Harvest Her Power conference, the one who was painted continually as the villain and the psycho, and they tried to edit her to be all sorts of terrible things. But from all accounts from the community, because she is in South Australia, she is a lovely, lovely lady. The kids at the school love her.
She has been so lovely to communicate with. Her reel for the Harvest Her Power conference has gone up on socials this week, so go and have a listen to that. She'll tell you all about what her panel session is about, and it is about moving to the farm, integrating into the community, and that side of being married to the land, basically. So she really did get the rough end of that edit, but such a beautiful person. Very glad for her to be coming on to the conference and speaking this year. I have one of 4 Christmas parties down and done with for my year. So my family celebrate Christmas in November. It is much easier for the 6 of us and our partners and kids to be able to organise to get together in November rather than leaving it to the day, because we also celebrate the importance of family and connection and good food and company over anything else. So for us, it's not necessarily about celebrating on the day, but celebrating all of that. So we can do that not necessarily on the day. So very glad that one, we had a lovely weekend celebrating that one. Yesterday, an episode with Melinda Guest went live on the Ultimate Farm Wife. Melinda had a workshop at this year's 2025 conference, and she is back by popular demand for 2026. So her workshop for 2026 is going to be all about intimacy in family farming businesses. Massive topic, very important topic, and I really look forward to seeing what she does with that workshop. But her interview, if you'd like to know more about her in the lead up to the conference, is now live on The Ultimate Farm Wife. And onwards and upwards, putting everything together. I know this has been very Harvest Her Power heavy in my chit chat for this time, but the Harvest Her Power now has a YouTube channel which has reels and will have more in-depth information coming up. So if you are wanting to know more about logistics, venue, any of that, that's the place to go. So jump across to the new YouTube channel and subscribe to Harvest Her Power.
Yep, we've got to subscribe. We've got to get those downloads. We've got to get those subscriber numbers up, because that's what stops us from being kicked to the bottom of the list. Yes. Of everything. So like, rate, review, and share whenever you see us pop up across your feed. Leave feedback and rate us on your podcast platforms and on YouTube, because that helps us come up to the top so other people can find us. It's not even about making money, because we don't make any money from this at all. It's about so other people can find us.
Wonderful. Let's head into the first topic. So, no favourites. Sibling court battle over $20 million of New South Wales farmland. 20 Million's farm inheritance has sparked a bitter court battle after 2 siblings were left just $600,000 each. Gillian, did you get a chance to really dive deep into this article?
I did get a chance to read it, and I have to say the off-farm siblings haven't exactly covered themselves in glory in this instance. It's a tricky thing. Sometimes it can be, people get moved off farm or whatever for whatever reason, but the fellow who ended up with the bulk of it, and it's not even that, he paid his dad for it. He paid his dad $1.2 million for the enterprise. And dad then split that money in half between the 2 other siblings. And we see this a lot. It's the one who has remained on farm has taken the lion's share. There's obviously some family stuff going on here, because dad and mum split up before dad passed away, and that obviously caused a bit of bad feeling and that sort of thing amongst some of the other siblings. But to then go back and take your brother to court because you're not happy with $600,000 when you haven't lived or worked there for 20 odd years I think it's a bit rude.
Yeah. Me too. I think that's very rude.
And, they tried to imply that dad had sort of lost his marbles, but he rewrote his will 10 years ago. It's not like it was very unwell and failing in health and was infirm or anything. He was in his right mind when he did it, so he knew what he was doing. And again, it's these things. They allege that they were promised that dad would split it 3 ways, and then he told his solicitor that I'd never do that because that'd bankrupt the business. It'd make the business unviable, as we so often see in farming enterprises. It's one of those, he's dead, but he told me this 20 years ago, and there is a resolution, and the judge ruled pretty much in favour of the young fella who's going to stay and keep farming. He has to give his sister an extra $300,000 because apparently she's got a lot of debt. I don't know that that's his problem, but she's got a lot of debt and 4 kids or some story. She also does have a job in Canberra, works for the Air Force or the Navy or something. And the brother who got $600,000, he is a public servant. So you know how I feel about politics and politics adjacent people. So not really surprised that it went down this way. So, but really pleased to see that the young fella who has been there since he was 17 and working his guts out, got to keep the asset and can keep farming. But again, this is what happens if you don't write it down, if you don't continually review it, if you don't make other people aware of your wishes and what's in the succession plan. You'll be dead and gone, but your kids will end up in court and it will be nasty and it will cost everyone a lot of money. And you could save everyone the heartache by being open, honest and transparent while you're alive and making everyone aware of the plan. And plans can change. Seasons can influence, like a tragedy or a family illness or all those sorts of things will have an impact. You know, babies being born, people deciding they don't want to farm anymore at an inconvenient time. All these sorts of things will influence a succession plan, but you have to do it. It's really, really hard and it sucks. But if you don't do it, it destroys families. And I think that's what we've seen here. We have seen another family through poor succession planning, and not even poor succession plan because it was planned and old dad had a plan, but poor communication around that plan whilst he was still alive, I think is what's probably led to this scenario. You got to communicate your plans and your wishes while you're alive, because then they can't go, surprise, I didn't know anything about it and he actually promised me a third. If you're open, honest and transparent, you know, it lessens the chance of legal challenges. It doesn't remove it completely, but if everyone knows what's going on, it lessens these things a lot. And if you've already ruined the relationship with the kids as the article indicated, then what have you got to lose by telling them what you're actually doing? So yeah. So it hits close to home, these sorts of stories. Not that we've got $20 million or anything, Katja, but not even close to it.
No. It's horrible that it has gone to court. It is good to see that the precedent is being set and backed up by these cases that is now ruling in favour of the sibling who stays on farm, who works for that asset, who doesn't take a wage, all of that. It's good to see that those precedences are being set because that will benefit people in the future. It is just so horrible that it has to get to that point and others have to be involved. It's also really disappointing to see that off-farm siblings who have their own job, have their own security, have their own payments, like that it's not enough for them. I think you should definitely focus on the relationships as well. Like you should love someone while they're here and strengthen your relationships while they're here rather than, you know, going and doing, you can go and do your own thing and still have strong relationships. But if you're going to go do your own thing or you're going to take someone else's side in the divorce, then don't be surprised if, you know, that relationship is frayed and you're not happy with whatever outcome it is. Again, agree with you, communication, but I'm glad the precedent is being set the correct way now, and that is that the on-farm sibling is getting what is viable for them and for the business, because again, if those siblings take any more than that, then there's no business left. And in most circumstances, if he's been there, you know, since he's 17, in most families, people have been on farm 20, 30, 40 years with no wage, and then they get left with nothing if it's divided up evenly or fairly. I'm using like my fingers, rabbit fingers, fairly if and just wrecking the business basically.
Yeah, and it's I think it's important to note too that it's worth $20 million now, but when those assets were accrued, it wouldn't have been worth anywhere near that. So like if you look at it in the terms, if old dad didn't die, if he was getting a divorce, for example, the person who'd stayed on farm would be entitled to half of the capital gains of those assets, and the young fella has stayed there. He's contributed to it because he's been working there this whole time and actually done the hard yards. And it's easy to empathize with him, I guess, from my perspective, because that's very much how we live. At the moment, we live here, we do the hard yards. We don't have a succession plan. We don't have 3 siblings to split $20 million. We've got 8. And probably nowhere near $20 million. So it's yeah, I hate reading these stories, but I also do love seeing that the courts are finally recognizing the sweat equity that the kids who remain on farm have contributed to that business. And it's not about just being equal, it's about being equitable instead. So
yeah. For those who are listening who are not necessarily from a farming background, part of the communication we probably haven't mentioned so far on the podcast about this is that most farming enterprises are asset rich and cash poor. So what that means is there's not a great cash flow. You use your debt and you use your assets to get a bank loan, and that's what your business operates on. So when off-farm siblings are coming back on, to be able to get the money, you are having to sell assets, which means that you are then having less to go against your bank loan, and you are more likely to forfeit, and the business will go into bankruptcy, because if you don't have the asset that can then pay off that bank loan, that can then pay off that working account, then the business is no longer viable, which is why that is such a big issue.
Yeah, if you have, you can either sell some land, and it depends on how your land is held too. If it's one contiguous block, you have to carve it up, and that's a nightmare. Or you have to sell other assets that you actually need to do the farming, like tractors and equipment or livestock and those sorts of things. Or you can take on more debt. And a lot of agricultural businesses carry a lot of debt already because of seasonal conditions and those sorts of things. And taking on extra debt at a inopportune time because someone is demanding a payout and is entitled to it or whatever, if they can't acknowledge the fact that the business can't bear it at the moment and you have to take on that extra debt, it could very easily make that farming business unviable. That's why these things need to be talked about, planned. If that's the way you're going to do it, if you're going to pay people out, then have a payment schedule, work it out with your accountant and your solicitor to make sure everything's accounted and interest and all that sort of stuff, and make sure that's all done. That is much preferable to then having like a lump sum drawn down against the business. And this is Murphy's Law. It's going to happen at the time when you can least afford it. It's going to happen in the middle of a drought or a flood or a fire or lowest commodity prices you've ever seen. So, yeah, it is a business management thing that people need to pay more attention to. It can't just be done when the older generation dies. It needs to be constantly part of your business planning.
Absolutely. So let's leave that there, because you and I could talk about this all night.
Oh. And it's pretty boring for people who don't have to live it, I guess, because it is a big thing to wrap your head around, because land's worth a lot of money. 20 million sounds like a lot of money, and you think, oh, why are these people complaining about that? And we could go on and on about the intricacies of family farming and succession planning, or lack thereof. So let's move on to the next thing, Katja. What have we got?
Wonderful. So we got sent through the next article by an ag fab. It's a current affair article. Now, they told her girls can't ride bulls, but 12-year-old Bella Brenner wasn't going to cop that. She's now preparing to go to Texas to show the Americans how Aussie kids can ride. So the bull riding circuit is predominantly males. It is predominantly riders who are much older than 12 years old. And it is an incredible circuit to be on. The vibe when you go to a rodeo, just the electric in the, like, you can feel the electricity in the air and the excitement and the fear and the pressure. And they're not on the bulls for very long. 8 seconds is all they've got to make the buzzer for their scores. Their scores are based on how well the bull bucks, how well they held on, and making the time limit. I can't remember if there's any other
points for style. Points for style. So how well you ride, how you're spurring action, and how you throw your hand back, and how you look, your hat, your chaps, all that sort of stuff. Points for style count. So it's an interesting sport, bull riding. I wouldn't call it a sport. I'd call it lunacy. But anyway.
I think she will do well, because when I was over in America and I went to Texas to watch some of the bull riding there, I definitely think that the Aussie rodeos have it over the Americans, but I don't want to offend too many people in saying that.
It's like a religion over an American, and it's one of those things that we can't possibly conceive, I don't think, because, you know, we have our regional rodeos and your town might have one rodeo a year, and that's a really big event. It is like Friday night football in America. They have rodeos every goddamn weekend because there's so many people. There's so much, like, it's just, we can't understand it in Australia. So to make it on the American circuit is incredible. To even get to the opportunity to go to America is incredible. I think she's going to really struggle as she gets older, because it's just simply competing against, as she gets older, like bigger, stronger people, because, you know, women do have a slight advantage when they're young, and because we have a lower center of gravity, so technically it makes it easier for us to balance and those sorts of things. But as you have to develop your upper body strength and that sort of thing, not saying she can't do it, but she's going to really struggle to compete on a level playing field, I think, as she gets older. But especially in the bull riding, bronc riding, not so much, because it's a very different style, but bull riding, it's a bit of a different thing. But at the end of the day, if she can stay up there for 8 seconds and she's got a good style, she's got as much chance as anybody else, regardless of gender. So I hope she has a red hot crack at it.
Yeah, best wishes to her. And guys, if you want us to cover an article or something else on the podcast, please make sure you're sending those through. You can either send those through to us via DMs, or you can send it through to the email address. The email address is always in the show notes below.
Right.
What did we say was going to be our next topic?
Electronet. Because I got an email from a politician about this today. So,
well, you take it away then.
So, Electronet. So, again, you know, we've constantly talked about this transmission lines cutting through prime farmland and how they could possibly find an alternative route for that to go. So in the mid-north of South Australia, just up the road from Mum and Dad, there are a lot of renewable energy projects, wind farms, solar farms, big giant batteries hiding up in the hills, all those sorts of things, which is fine, which is great. But then when it comes to actually transmitting that electricity down to Adelaide where the people need to use it, or to at least put it into the interconnector, it's got to go through someone's farm, because heaven forbid you go down a road corridor that's already been cleared and nobody's using for agriculture. So the communities of the mid-north have been very proactive and have been very persistent in their advocacy. And Electronet had a preferred route, which was basically just like shortest, quickest, most efficient, cheapest thing for them to do, which is straight through people's cropping products. But now they are having to seek alternative pathways which will take them out of that prime cropping land and into grazing country. So if you don't want a transmission line on your farm and you're a grazer, it's probably still not great news for you, but technically it is a lot easier for cows and sheep to wander around a pylon than it is to try and get your header or your sprayer or anything else, a big piece of machinery around it. So it's a small win for agriculture in the sense that we've got them to think about going somewhere else. And, you know, you do get compensation for having the infrastructure on your land. So if you're in marginal grazing land and you've just come out of a drought, it might be a welcome addition to your mix. Like, you know, if you want to make money out of it, that's go your hardest. Get as much money out of an energy company as you possibly can. Same goes for mining. Extract every dollar you can out of them. So, yeah, I think that is a good win for the farmers of the mid-north to have to encourage Electronet to think twice about going through cropping country. I think it's representing a change of heart, hopefully, from government in acknowledging that just pandering to big corporations probably isn't the best thing to do for future food security, for future votes, for their future popularity. Because very interestingly, at the MLA conference, we received a presentation from a social demographer, researcher who does a lot of the research independently of MLA, but for MLA. Farmers rate in the trustworthy rating. There's only 5 people above us and they all wear uniforms. So we're only just underneath nurses, doctors, policemen, ambulance, and one other one, teachers. we rate just underneath them when it comes to trustworthiness. We're not as hated and reviled as some people would have us believe. We're actually right up there, and people are starting to acknowledge that and listen to us. So, yeah, just continue to be our own reasonable selves, guys. No need to sort of be outrageous. Just be clear, consistent, polite, and yet strong, and I think we will make a difference.
Yeah, it's nice to see that's trending positively and coming out the other side for us. Now, there are some petitions that are circulating on social media. One of them is being driven by Farmer Will. Farmer Will was on season 12 of Farmer Wants a Wife. We will share his reel over on our socials. He's got a link to a petition that is going to help Victorian farmers in this as well.
Yeah, because unlike South Australia, Victoria has just doubled down. They are ignoring common sense, they're ignoring farmers, and they're ignoring the greater community of Victoria, and are just allowing big transmission lines and corporations to just go willy-nilly wherever they like. So, yes, please sign their petition and help encourage them to make the same decisions as what they're making in South Australia.
Absolutely. So that link is going to be in the description below, as well as on the Facebook reel that we will share. And with that, it takes us into question and answer. And this part of the episode is sponsored by Farm Table. So thank you, Farm Table. Farm Table now hosts our podcast page, our landing page. So I will add that in the show notes below for you all to check out. But welcome to Farm Table. Farm Table is a proud independent Australian agricultural knowledge platform, bringing together the most relevant and curated agricultural resources from around the globe. More than that, Farm Table supports industry collaboration, peer-to-peer networking, and functions to build the capacity of individuals and organisations across the entire Australian ag supply chain. With over 3,000 resources, the latest agricultural events, funding opportunities, grants, micro courses and workshops, all in one location, Farm Table makes it easier to find the information you need.
We don't have questions as such, but we have some feedback from Fiona, who has been on the search for good work pants. So she has been she's tried several different brands. Bisley were comfy and stretchy and a looser fit than traditional jeggings. She still wore them when she got home. The Sook size 14 trousers with the very high waist, they're cut for a lady's figure, allegedly. She found them very flattering but tight in the waist and zip. She could happily work unless she had to bend over, which is often the problem with really high-waisted things, because they're designed to keep you in, but until you when you have to bend over, a lot of times if you're sitting in a machine, it can get a bit thin. And she got Zadie work pants, and they have an instant 5-star rating. So if you are listening to that and you are looking for a decent pair of work trousers, there are 3 brands there that you can try. We didn't get anything from any of these companies, despite me asking, not even for free stuff, just for a discount code so we could buy a pair and test them ourselves. So free advertising for those 3 people. I hope they appreciate it. So yeah, that's the only comments and questions we've had on socials. So yeah.
Very good. Very busy time of year for many of our listeners. We know that you are listening and not necessarily asking questions or reaching out, but we do look forward to hearing from you guys when everything slows down, because we absolutely love receiving articles, questions, anything like that. Now, we did have one come through about stocking stuffers. Now, in putting a poll up for this over on the Ultimate Farm Wife, I did find out something that I didn't know before, and that is that some people do husband and wife stockings. Did you know people do that?
Well, we don't even do stockings. So I think that's a nonsense actually to do stocking stuffers and stockings and those sorts of things, because we just do presents. We don't faff about the stockings and those sorts of things. Every now, when the kids are small, I would get them a Santa sack and just fill it up with plastic trash from Kmart, because when they were little, it was not about quantity. It was not about quality. It was quantity. They just wanted 1,000 different things to unwrap, and then you could just sweep them up a week later and chuck them all down the dump, and they didn't clutter up your house. But as they're getting older, they're getting more and more discerning. So yeah, we don't do stockings in this house. We just do presents.
Yes. So we do stockings for the kids from Santa. But the rule for that is it's nothing big. Like the big present, they get 1, maybe 2 presents from mum and dad. The big present or the expensive present is always from mum and dad. It's not from Santa. Santa brings things like socks, jocks, books, puzzles, those type of things. Or if we have something that is very specific that's coming up, say we're going camping, he might get them head torches or something like that. This year we are getting off farm, so they will have, and we have a little surprise for them. So their stocking stuffers will indicate what that surprise is. So I look forward to telling you more about that the closer to Christmas.
Not like they're going to listen to the podcast, Katja. I don't think they're going to figure it out.
They're not going to listen to the podcast, but I'd like to keep it a secret for a bit.
That's all right. And you know, that's a really nice thing that you do in Santa, giving the cheaper practical gifts, because I grew up like this. My cousins, right, very different families, but we always spent Christmas together. So my cousins, their Santa gifts were outrageously expensive.
Mm.
My Santa gifts were like Kmart toys. And when I used to work at the school, you used to get this a lot, like, oh, what did Santa bring you, or what did the Easter Bunny bring you? And, you know, it was really apparent that, oh, Santa brought me an iPad, or my Santa brought me socks. Like, how come Santa loves you more than he loves me? So I think that's a really good point. The expensive, or if you can, like, it doesn't have to be expensive, but the big stuff, the stuff that they're going to brag to their friends about, that always comes from mum and dad or from other family members. It doesn't. Santa he is practical. He is cheap. He's generic. He's not out there spending $500 on a kid and then only $2 on the kid next door. I think that's a really good approach to take, if you even have Santa at your house. Not everyone does these days.
We don't do his and her stockings, although a couple of people did write in. Most of the time the his and her stockings are done by her. And so his stocking is usually the socks and the jocks, which is what they do every year for each other. And then her stocking might be something that has been on her list for, you know, over 12 months. It might have been on her list for, you know, birthday and Easter and all of that sort of stuff, and it hasn't come to her. Mother's Day, you know, anything like that that's been on their list. And so that is the opportunity when they put it in her stocking for that. We predominantly do presents. We have 2 very different family Christmases. So my parents, for my family, so the Inghams, we do everyone gets something for mum and dad, because mum and dad have done so much for us over the years, raising us, and still do so much when we do need that help and the support. They're not close to any of us now geographically, so they make the effort to come and see us all and help and support us when we need it. They are busier now in retirement than they were when they were working, as most people are. But everyone gets something from mum and dad because we appreciate the hell out of them. And then we do, so I have 4 siblings. So you buy your siblings one present, in that we do it's kind of like a secret Santa. You pull a name out of a hat, or it goes on a rotation. So you're only buying one sibling a present. So this year I got my sister Rabina and her husband, and I got them a custom flower vase. So they have had their first baby this year, and I got them a custom flower vase with their names and their birth flower on them, as well as a couple of other little bits and pieces that they asked for their home.
That's lovely.
Yeah. And then I will get Ned a gift, and and that's it. We don't go over the top.
Yeah, and it's getting harder, isn't it? Because, like, you can't compare what you're doing on Christmas to Instagram, because that's a path to madness.
Yeah.
And you know, I often buy my own presents and wrap them up and say they're from the kids or from Sandra or whatever, because I'm hard to buy for. I also don't need anything, and I don't really want anything, because if I need it I buy it for myself during the year anyway, if I get the opportunity. And if I want it, I'm likely to change my mind next month and then don't want it anymore. So, but it's interesting that you always buy your parents something. I get my parents like, disposable type things like calendars and that sort of stuff, because they're sort of in the down phase, like the downsizing phase of their life, and mum's always throwing shit out anyway. So
I was going to say the offloading phase.
Yeah, so I buy her stuff that she can like look at and for the whole year or whatever. But if it's a calendar or a notebook or something like that, then she can just toss it away. She doesn't have to keep it forever. But it's something nice to unwrap. Or food gifts. I'm very big on giving like food hampers and those sorts of things to sort of, and if, again, it's really interesting. Like, so Mark's siblings all do Secret Santa, but we don't have a draw. We don't get a ticket in that draw because we don't believe in Secret Santa. If everyone's here, like for Christmas, all the kids get a present. They get something to unwrap. We'll, do anything for the kids and the grown-ups. So I'd like to hand make like little Christmas lollies or something like that for them, because that's how I show my sort of appreciation, and that is handmade gifts, like mainly food gifts, because I'm pretty good at making like Christmas lollies and that sort of stuff. And no one else in the family is, so it's something nice that they can enjoy, and I don't mind doing it. And
what's a Christmas lolly?
Christmas lolly, like you make fudge and coconut ice and coconut balls and rum balls, and you make like a little Christmas lolly parcel.
Oh, cute.
French jellies, those sorts of things, caramels. Yeah.
What's a French jelly?
Oh, I haven't made them for years. My mum makes them, but it's like you make a jelly and you do something different to it so it doesn't it sets hard, so it doesn't have to live in the fridge, and you roll it in caster sugar.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I'll find the recipe. If I can find the recipe in the CWA book, I will pop it up on the thing. So people might want to try making French jellies. So yeah, haven't made them for years because they don't do so well in the humidity, because they are still very sugar-based, and like, so meringues and pavlovas don't do well in the humidity either. You need a really dry climate to make French jellies and that sort of stuff. Otherwise, they just melt in the packet.
Yeah, now I'm hungry. Anything else you care to share about the socials or about Christmas?
No, nothing much else is happening. Social's been quiet, obviously, because I've been too busy to bloody turn around and do anything at the moment. But we do have the tickets on sale for Alistair's makeup night. It's going to be great. Still haven't dug out my glamour shot yet either. I have to get in the container and do that.
I've sent mine through to you, so it's sitting there ready to go.
No one else has sent theirs in though. So if you're listening to this, put your glamour shots up, because I want to see your formal photos, because that's pretty funny. Because we all, especially like, when did I graduate? Jesus, nearly 30 years ago now. Not quite the 80s with the big hair and the blue eyeshadow, but it was the 90s. So everything was brown. Everyone's face was brown eyeshadow, brown lipstick, brown skin. Like, yeah, we were very brown all over.
Wonderful. Now, pretty sure that topic 3 and 4 is not what I have written down here. Do you remember what we said 3 and 4 was? Was one of them fact check and image search for AI and fake news?
It quite possibly could be. I'll just scroll back through. Organic versus grass-fed.
Oh, organic versus grass-fed. Oh, that was a reel that got sent through to us by an ag fab.
Yeah. So if this is for meat, red meat for livestock, doesn't matter.
That's right.
Organic is a nonsense, people. It's not. It's an expensive premium for something that is no different to anything else.
What I might see if I can download that reel and pop it in here.
Yep.
Essentially, some Beef Australia advocates from Australia Good, Aussie Good Meat. What are they called?
Yeah, we've got the Aussie Good Meat
Yes, Aussie Good
channel.
Meat.
Yep.
So Aussie Good Meat went into the city and they have recorded this reel. Now, the reel
Yep.
is asking people about what the difference is between organic and grass-fed. Now, most people believe when they are reading the packaging that organic, in their mind, is grass-fed. And it's actually two very different things. So I thought this was really interesting when it got sent through, because it goes to show that a lot of the marketing and advertising that is being done, not by our meat industry, but by other people, particularly when they are trying to be pro-organic or pro-greenies or trying to discredit the Australian meat industry, they will usually use incorrect terms to describe what's happening. And that is now being reflected in our consumers about what the product is and what things actually mean. And that's a little bit scary when people start confusing the terminology that's being used by the industry, what is actually happening with our meat in the industry that we are producing and is ending up on the shelves and being consumed. Again, I'm not really sure what we can do about it, because why are people not listening to farmers, listening to producers, listening to industry bodies? What is the disconnect between our marketing to consumers and what other people are doing to have such a big divide in the understanding of what's the difference between organic, grain-fed? Does it make a difference? Doesn't really.
And that's the thing. So if you are not a farmer or in agriculture and you're listening to this, you can be guaranteed that anything you buy in a shop in Australia is safe for you to eat. It has to go through so many checks and balances. We have so many testing regimes and withholding periods and all of these sorts of things. Everything is very highly regulated. Nutritionally, differences will be minimal, especially like you are not a large carnivore, okay? You are not a lion. You are not going to eat 20 kilos of meat in a day. The amount that you actually eat is going to make very, very little difference to your overall health when you're looking at things like omega-3s and fatty acids and all that sorts of things. Just eat what you can afford. I can't guarantee if you're buying stuff off a random man off the side of the road, I can't guarantee that because it hasn't gone through the same processes. It might be well and good. It might be fine. But if you buy it from a shop in Australia, if you buy it from a supermarket, if you buy it from a restaurant, it is going to be safe and nutritious and healthy for you. Just don't be sensible. Don't eat 50 kilos of meat a week. That's, I love it if you're paying good money for it. Love it for the industry, but it's not great for you. Organic doesn't mean anything. Organic is just simply, because it also doesn't mean it hasn't been treated with chemicals.